At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Dan Morgan, a car salesman living in Buffalo, New York. And at first glance, Dan is the guy, the reliable one, the predictable one, the man who walks into work every single morning with a kind of calm confidence that comes not from passion, but from absolute mastery of reading people. Dan doesn't just sell cars. He understands why people buy them. He gets inside their heads, figures out what they truly want, and closes the deal every time. Salesman of the month again. Not surprising. His co-worker, Hal, is the comic relief of the dealership, loud, flamboyant, convinced that speed is the answer to everything in life, including apparently attracting women. The rest of the staff thinks Hal is out of his mind. Dan just smiles and goes about his day. After work, Dan heads home early. Tonight is special, it's his wedding anniversary. He lives in a quiet, cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood with his wife Jessica and their 3 kids. Nina, Kyle, and little Max. Nina, the oldest, used to be a passionate journalist, sharp, driven, talented. But somewhere along the way, she fell for a guy named Trevor, and Trevor has slowly been replacing her ambitions with his own opinions. She's even considering abandoning her college journalism dreams to follow him to Iowa. Dan and Jessica are visibly frustrated by this, but Nina isn't exactly open to hearing it. Then there's Kyle. Quiet, withdrawn, struggling to connect with a father who seems to misunderstand him at every turn. Dan discouraged Kyle's gaming habit, convinced it was rotting his brain, so Kyle obediently quit. Or so Dan thinks. Because Kyle has a secret of his own that we'll get to very shortly. And baby Max? He's just there being adorable, completely unaware that his family is about to have the most chaotic week of their lives. With Dan and Jessica heading out for their anniversary, a war breaks out between Nina and Kyle over who has to babysit Max. Dan settles it, Nina babysits. Kyle can go spend time at his friend Samir's house. Dan even encourages it. A little social interaction never hurt anyone, right? Except Kyle isn't going to Samir's to hang out. He's going there to work. Here's where the story pulls back the curtain for the first time. Kyle shows up at Samir's house and quietly hands over $200 in cash rent money. For what, you ask? A tricked-out gaming setup in Samir's garage. Because unbeknownst to his family, Kyle has become a massively popular online streamer known as Killboy. He's skilled, entertaining, and growing a huge following, all completely hidden from the dad who banned him from gaming. Meanwhile, Dan takes Jessica to the carnival, the same carnival they go to every anniversary. And Jessica loves Dan. She genuinely does. But she's also a little tired of predictable. She even jokes that she knows what they're doing every Thursday night. She wants spontaneity. She wants adventure. She wants a husband who surprises her. Dan is trying, though. While waiting in line for a roller coaster, a group of young guys nearby are glued to a phone screen, watching Killboy stream, completely obsessed with this gamer, and they cheerfully let Dan and Jessica skip ahead in line. Neither of them realizes it's because those guys are watching their own son. After the roller coaster, there's a tender moment between Dan and Jessica. They lean in for a kiss, and click some random guy nearby snaps a photo of them without asking. Dan, calm but firm, asks him to delete it. The guy refuses. It escalates. The guy posts the photo online, calls Dan a loser, and then here's the moment that quietly defines Dan's internal struggle. He dumps his drink on Dan, right in front of Jessica, and basically dares him to do something about it. And Dan walks away. Jessica tells him she's glad he didn't escalate. But later that night, as Dan lies in bed next to his already sleeping wife on their anniversary, he mutters to himself that he should have stood up for them. Jessica, barely awake, laughs and agrees he could have totally taken the guy. It's a small moment, but it tells us everything. Dan is a man at war with himself, holding back something deep inside. The next morning, Jessica takes out her frustrations at a kickboxing class, where she accidentally punches a stranger square in the face. That stranger is a travel agent visiting Buffalo, cool and sophisticated. Over smoothies, they bond. Jessica opens up. She loves her husband, but she feels stuck. She had dreams of seeing the world. Now her biggest adventure is the annual carnival. Gwen hands Jessica her business card and heads to catch a flight. A seemingly random encounter. But nothing in this movie is random. Now we get to the moment that changes everything. Dan is out shopping with baby Max when he notices a man watching him. Not browsing the store watching. Tactical watching. The kind that Dan apparently recognizes immediately. When the man lunges at him, Dan's first instinct, and this is where your jaw starts to drop, is to calmly ask the guy to at least wait until he puts the baby down. And then, with Max safely set aside, Dan dismantles this trained attacker like he's done it 1,000 times before. Because he has. Surprising the onlookers. Dan drives home with that eerie calm, and the neighbors can sense something has shifted. He gets home, goes to a specific spot, and uncovers a hidden compartment filled with weapons, multiple passports under different names, and stacks of cash. Dan Morgan isn't a car salesman who used to be interesting. Dan Morgan is a former professional assassin. He immediately contacts a man named Augie, an old associate, and tells him they have a problem. Someone from Dan's past, a powerful and dangerous man named McCaffrey, has been hunting for him. Dan suspects that photo from the carnival, posted online, may have exposed his location after nearly 2 decades of hiding. He offers Augie $500,000 to arrange brand new identities for his entire family. The meeting point, Las Vegas. 3 days. Augie is stunned, not about the money, not about McCaffrey, but about the fact that Dan's wife and kids don't know any of this. He urges Dan to tell them the truth. Dan insists he can't. Not yet. So instead, Dan does what he does best. He uses his salesmanship. He swoops into his kid's school, pulls Nina out of an editorial meeting only to discover she hasn't been the school editor for 3 months because Trevor convinced her to step back, and finds Kyle at the chess club, where he learns Kyle quietly quit that too. He even finds out about the gaming setup at Samir's when he goes to pick Kyle up. Dan gathers his children with one instruction. They're going on a family road trip to Las Vegas, and if either of them breathes a word of their secret lives to Jessica, he'll expose both of them. Then he heads to Jessica's workplace, and channeling every ounce of spontaneity he knows she's been craving convinces her to drop everything and take an unplanned family vacation. She's confused, then suspicious, then thrilled. This is the Dan she didn't know she wanted. She says yes without hesitation. They don't know yet that McCaffrey's men are already closing in. As soon as they hit the road, Dan spots a black SUV. McCaffrey's people are already on them. What follows is one of the most entertaining sequences in the entire movie, Dan weaving through traffic, making sharp turns, telling his completely oblivious family that a squirrel jumped out in front of the car. He discovers a tracking device hidden on the vehicle, drives to his own dealership, and get this, lifts the entire car off the ground with his family still inside, pretending he needs to do an oil check, while he removes the tracker from underneath. And then, in a moment of absolute genius, he slaps the tracker onto Hal's car, just as Hal is about to take a customer's vehicle for a high-speed test drive. McCaffrey's men chase Hal across the freeway, thinking they're following Dan. With the immediate threat neutralized, Dan makes another bold move. He collects everyone's phones, including his own, and tosses them. Device-free family trip, he announces. The kids are outraged. Jessica is surprised but intrigued. And just like that, McCaffrey loses their digital trail. What happens next is something nobody expected. The Morgan family actually starts bonding. Without screens to hide behind, they're forced to interact. They stop at a travel agency for paper maps. They sing Vanilla Ice in the van together. At first the kids are mortified, but then they give in, and suddenly it's one of those rare, golden family moments you can't manufacture. But McCaffrey isn't giving up. He personally visits Dan's home, and his tech expert discovers something crucial: Kyle's online identity as Killboy. With that information, tracking the family just got a whole lot easier. Along the way, the family makes an unplanned stop at the college Nina has been quietly dreaming about, the same one her boyfriend Trevor attends. Jessica initially resists, convinced this is all about Trevor. But Dan quietly pulls her aside and says something surprisingly wise. If they want Nina to listen to them, they have to start by listening to her. So they stop, and the campus is stunning, full of life, energy, and possibility. Jessica, caught up in the moment and mistaken for a student from behind, gets challenged to a keg stand by a college student. Does she decline like a sensible adult? Absolutely not. She absolutely nails it, impressing even Nina, who watches in disbelief. Dan, meanwhile, spots someone suspicious making a phone call and corners him, only to realize the man is just a regular German tourist. Embarrassing. But before he can relax, a different attacker catches him off guard in a chemistry lab. A brief, brutal scuffle later, Dan rejoins his family like nothing happened. But Nina has slipped away to find Trevor, and she finds him, alright, with another girl. Trevor, completely unashamed, tries to explain that monogamy is a social construct. Nina comes back to her family in tears, and Dan, for once, knows exactly what not to do. No lecture. No, I told you so. Instead, he quietly teaches her a very specific martial arts move. Ancient, precise, painful, but leaves no permanent damage. Nina goes back, uses the move, takes a photo of Trevor's reaction, and walks back to the van looking lighter than she has in months. On the road again, something has shifted in the family dynamic. Nina takes the wheel. She and Dan really talk for the first time in what feels like years. He tells her he's read every single piece she's ever written, that her expose on corruption in the school board gave him chills. She hadn't believed he actually read her work. "I'm your biggest fan, Beans," he tells her. It's a quiet moment, but it hits hard. They arrive in Las Vegas and check into one of the most incredible suites in the city. Dan slips downstairs to meet Augie, who hands over the new identities and one-way tickets to Vancouver. The clock is ticking. Dan plans to tell Jessica everything over a romantic dinner. He tries. He really does. But every time he gets close to the truth, something interrupts him. He ends up stumbling through a speech in French, a language Jessica didn't even know he spoke, and she finds it so charming and unexpected that she completely loses track of whatever confession he was building toward. He chickens out. Again, he leaves the kids in the suite with strict instructions. Do not leave. Do not open the door for anyone. Predictably, the moment his back is turned, Kyle convinces Nina they should check out the HyperX gaming arena just down the street. At the arena, Kyle runs into another top-level gamer named Ran, who recognizes him from his streams. A tournament is happening, and Kyle gets pulled into the finals as a substitute. What starts as a casual evening turns into a full crowd-watching, heart-pounding gaming competition, with Kyle single-handedly dismantling the entire opposing team. The crowd goes wild. Back at the hotel, Dan and Jessica return to find what appears to be the kids sleeping peacefully under their covers. Relieved, Jessica goes to freshen up. Dan relaxes, and then everything explodes. McCaffrey's assassins were already in the room. Jessica, in a moment of dark irony, sprays some kind of romantic mist into the air, and it's that mist that reveals the laser sights dancing across the walls. Dan dives, grabs a bottle of tequila, and uses it as a weapon in one of the most creative action sequences of the film, sending the attackers up in flames. But one of them gets to Jessica. She's taken hostage. Dan drops his weapon but keeps a knife hidden, and in the chaos, the attacker says something that stops everything cold. He calls Dan by a name Jessica has never heard before. Sean. And just like that, 18 years of secrets collapse in an instant. Jessica is in shock. She throws up. Dan neutralizes the assailant. She runs to the kids, but finds the dummies. Then she runs toward her children because the attacker mentioned something about the HyperX arena. She knows exactly where they are. At the arena, right as Kyle is basking in his gaming victory, Dan and Jessica burst in. And right there, in the middle of a Las Vegas gaming arena, Dan finally says the words he's been terrified of for nearly 2 decades. Before I met your mom, I was a covert assassin. The kids laugh. They genuinely think he's joking. He's the most predictable man they know. Until a mercenary opens fire, and suddenly nobody is laughing anymore. Dan gets his family to safety and fills them in on the full truth. 43 lives. McCaffrey's operation. 18 years of hiding in plain sight. Kyle calls him a hypocrite, banned his kid from fake video game violence, while secretly being an actual assassin. Fair point, honestly. Dan hands out the new identities, and the family understandably falls apart. Jessica can't look at him. She takes the kids and calls the one person she thinks she can trust, Gwen. But remember what we said earlier? Nothing in this movie is random. On the private jet Gwen arranges, the truth finally emerges. Gwen wasn't a random stranger at a kickboxing class. She was sent. She got close to Jessica on purpose, built trust deliberately, and waited patiently for the right moment. Gwen is McCaffrey's operative, and McCaffrey is someone with a very specific, very personal connection to Dan. McCaffrey is Dan's father. McCaffrey wanted Dan dead because he abandoned him. Dan escaped the life and built something real. And McCaffrey, having spent the past few days watching every man he sent get systematically neutralized, feels something unexpected: pride. He wants his son back. He gives Dan an ultimatum: return to work or the family dies. But if Dan comes back, he can never see his family again. Dan, with no visible options, agrees. McCaffrey sends the family to the airport. But here's where the Morgan family stops being victims and starts being the plan itself. Kyle jams the elevator with childish persistence. While Jessica changes Max's diaper in front of a mercenary, she shoves the diaper in his face and throws him off the building. They're going back for Dan. What follows is a full-scale battle at the top of a Las Vegas hotel. McCaffrey goes to make some arrangements. Gwen uses her feminine charm to seduce Dan back into loving her. The family is there to rescue him. As he puts Gwen back to sleep, the tech guy is taken captive. Dan apologizes to Jessica for keeping secrets and promises to always tell her the truth. Meanwhile, McCaffrey notices something is wrong. Kyle commandeers a drone from McCaffrey's own tech guy, who turns out to be a massive Killboy fan, by the way, and feeds Dan real-time intelligence from above. Dan, finally operating at full capacity with his son as his eyes and ears, tears through McCaffrey's mercenaries one by one. McCaffrey notices that the drone is aiding Dan and wakes Gwen to find the family. Jessica faces off against Gwen in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Gwen is trained, professional, and completely dismissive of a suburban mom who took a few kickboxing classes. She has the upper hand for most of it until Jessica grabs a bamboo stick, attempts an athletic jump that fails spectacularly, and then hurls it like a javelin on the second try. Gwen doesn't see it coming. McCaffrey takes Dan down in their face-to-face confrontation. He has a gun. It's over. Until Nina steps forward. She looks her grandfather, a man she just found out exists, in the eyes, and tells him she sees more than a killer. She sees family. She sees someone who could still choose differently. She's not trying to convince him. She's buying time. Dan makes his move. It works. The police arrive. McCaffrey is taken into custody. Gwen too. The family, battered and breathless, is finally safe. 6 months on, the Morgan family looks different in the best possible way. Nina publishes a major investigative piece exposing McCaffrey's entire assassination network. Her journalism career doesn't just restart at launches. Dan opens a security consulting firm and finally puts 18 years of lethal skills to legitimate use. Augie joins him. Jessica becomes a coach channeling that kickboxing energy into something constructive. Kyle keeps streaming, officially, with his family's blessing. And together, they pack an RV to take Nina to Stanford, her real dream school, not Trevor's. Before they pull out of the driveway, they all hand over their phones. Some traditions are worth keeping. Now here's the part where I need you to do something. If you watch this entire video without subscribing to this channel, please go hit that subscribe button. It means everything. And drop a comment right now. I want to know. Did you see that grandfather twist coming, or did it completely blindside you? Because that reveal is one of those moments that rewinds itself in your head long after the movie ends. I'll see you in the next one. Don't be a stranger.